Hey, everybody, this is Randy Baxter. I'm the president of Asset Positioning Services and the provider of the Family Estate Docs software. And today's class, and I appreciate everybody showing up, today's class is going to be on the use of the software. I know some of you are very good at it. Some of you haven't used it enough. And if you were anything like me, when I first got it, I was afraid of it. So what we're going to do right now, and Lisa, you might have to help me. I'm going to go over to my software, and we're going to walk through using my software. And I'm just going to tell you what I think about it and what I do and all that kind of good stuff. And this is just so that you'll be prepared. You can see that it says where it says randallbaxter.com and my super duper secret password. And I'm going to hit
Yes.
sign in. Okay. And it's loading. And look, my website looks just like yours. Is that full screen?
Yes.
What I'm going to do, first of all, I'm going to click on client sales. And Lisa, can you see the page, the landing page?
Yes, I can see where it says Family Estate Docs client registration.
Okay, and it's got the purchase price right there for $19.95.
Yes.
Okay, so listen, everybody. There are some people that discount. Even I discount occasionally. We sold one the other day for $695 for a client that's about to give us $800,000 or $900,000. And I just sort of treated her, and she needed help. But in a lot of the investment brokers use the $695. If you want to change that price, that $19.95 price, you need to go over here and click on marketing. As soon as I find my mouse, it's over on the big screen. Here it is. You can go over here on marketing and click on promo codes. And all you got to do is type in the promo code. And you can see right there, if I wanted to sell it for $14.95, I would type in the promo code interest $14.95. And it'll change the price and show the what the discount is. So does anybody have any questions right now on how to change the price on the Family Estate Doc software? Ask now, because I want to move forward. I don't want to leave you behind. So if you have a question on it, now's the time to ask it. Lisa, are you seeing any questions?
Nothing in the chat, Randall.
Okay. All right. So when I come back over to I can't keep my mouse on this little page. Where's my mouse?
It's up there. Let's try this right there. There you go.
Okay. So I'm gonna go back to sales and click on client sales again. And all you got to do is enter their name, and I still sell off the paper app when I'm with a client because I don't always have my computer, so I keep a paper app close by, and I can always change it. So I would just put in the name here, the last name, and their email, and their confirm their email and their client address and their city, and then since I would be doing Tennessee, I would come down here and switch it to Tennessee. Now, when I do that, I'm telling the decision tree programming to print out the documents using the language that the state of Tennessee requires. And if I wanted to come over here and change it to Oklahoma, it would print out the language required by the state of Oklahoma. And then I'd put in the client zip. So does everybody understand how to get the right state? And you got to be careful because it comes up default as Alabama. Does anybody have any questions on that? Okay, and then you go down to your credit card and you punch in your credit card, and the software knows it. Once you put in the credit card number, it knows whether it's American Express or MasterCard or Visa or Discover. It already knows all that. So you just have to put in the expiration date and the security code, and again the name and address and everything of that trust, and then you just type in purchase, and it will register the credit card. It will charge their credit card. And the reason I want you to use 1995, folks, is because this isn't I know it's a one-time price, but it's also a lifetime subscription. So if you sell it to somebody who's 65 years old, they could have this website for,
If they give you a referral, I think the referral is a cost too.
yeah. But yeah, that plus when they're talking about to their friends and things, they'll tell them it's 1995. Okay, and just remember, when you write it for 1995, you make $1,200. Okay, that's the easy part. Now, I've got one I put in yesterday, but I haven't entered all the information. I just went ahead and got the credit card approved, and then I'm going to try to put the information in tomorrow because I haven't had time today. And I hope you get to a point where you're too busy to do that too. So let's go back and look at sales again. And I'm going to go down here and click on free trial. And remember, a free trial is when they get it, you email it to them, and your email will get notification that they have received a free trial. And you can pick the number of days that you want them to have. Look down here and you put in their client name and their email address, and then how many days right down here at the bottom. You can give it to them for 5 days or 10 days or 15 days. And again, you can change the state that you want to use. And we'll go in here and say, okay, Tennessee. And see how easy it is to change this. Do not be afraid of this software. So now when you send that, Lisa, can everybody see my software?
Yes, it says Family Estate Docs Client Free
Okay,
Trial.
all right. Okay, so everybody's been real quiet and I won't know it, but Lisa, you'll know it if they want to have a question, right?
Yes, I'll see in the chat.
Okay, all right. So um, you know, the best thing to do when you have a free trial, send them a free trial and then call them in a couple of days and ask them if they received it and if they have any questions. And then say, hey, by the way, I can help you get this done if you have a minute. And they'll either set an appointment to do it or they'll say yes. And then you go right into the family tree, asset positioning, go to first interview. It's okay. You can do it on the phone. You can do it by Zoom. It's okay. Go ahead and do it because when they're finished, they can buy it. So it looks like there's a question there in the chat. Is that correct?
Yes, Kim Scott asked, can you go over how I can do my own at $6.95?
Yes. Just go to the promo code, go to the sales page and go to the promo code and go in marketing and go down to where it says $6.95 and enter that promo code. So let's do that for you real quick. I'll show you how fast you can do it. I don't know how my mouse gets over on the big screen all the time. Okay, here goes.
So scroll up.
Okay, I'm going to go up to sales. Okay, I'm going to go over to marketing and go to promo codes. But now, when you go to sales first, click on sales and look right there, that small print right there. What's that say? Do you have a promo code, source code, or a referral code? Click here and you can click right there and it'll say, what is that code? So if you wrote it down when you went to marketing, you would type in that code. So let's go back and look and see what it is again. Marketing, promo code, $6.95. The code is secure $6.95. Go back to sales, go to your client sales. You wrote it down. You click there. It says secure $6.95. Watch what happens. Apply the code. I must have typed that in wrong. Secure invalid or expired code. Let's go in there and try it again. SECURE 695. Apply the code. That's not supposed to happen. So I'm going to go back in here and try another code here. We'll go back to marketing, promo codes. Did I type it in wrong? Oh,
Secure.
yeah, there's a D in there. I misspelled it.
Yeah, it's secured.
Yeah, secure $6.95. So I'm going to go back to sales, click on that. I'm going to click here. And I'm going to type in SECURED 695 and apply the code. And folks, very seldom is it the software that's not working. It's usually the operator. So you can see now that it automatically gives a $1,300 discount So your final price is $695. So now when you do it, when you enter it, it's going to charge $695 instead of $1995. If you forget, it's going to charge the $1995. Okay, so that who was it that asked that question?
It was Kim Scott.
Okay, Kim. But it looks like there's a second question.
And Neil Sherwood just wrote that it was secured, and Kim Scott
Okay.
said thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Neil. All right, so let's go back to sales again. That old mouse, it always hides from me when I look away. Um, how did you get over there? Oh, okay. There it is. I can't see. All right, so let's go back to sales then. Folks, you can make a lot of money on the free trial if you do it correctly. And just remember, if you send them a free trial, they're going to be looking at the screen. It's almost like a Zoom call, and you can call them on the phone and say, go there and talk them through it and do your family tree presentation right there in front of them. And you might make a sale. But look here what I can also do on the sales. I can view my customers. See right there, you can see when I tell you I write a lot of business, I don't care to tell you. Look here, there's a lot of business there. This is every client that I've used this software for is listed. Okay, so looks like in the past 2 days, October 14th and 15th, there's been $2,400 worth of commissions there. So anyway, you can go and it keeps a complete record of all your clients. The next thing you can look on down here is you can launch a client demo. When you pay for it with a credit card and you put it in, it's going to go right to this page. But you can bypass the credit card and go to the client demo if you want to work with your client right there, talking to them on the phone or Zoom call or whatever. So you can click on the interview. Is that a third question, Lisa?
No, Randall.
Okay. So you click on the interview, and the computer's a little bit slow right now, but it's nothing I can do about that. When you go to the interview, it's got all the buttons on the right-hand side, and you can just do the interview and print it off if you want to. I don't know why it's so slow to pop up. Escape from it and try it one more time. Go into Family Estate Docs. And go to my sign in. You can go to launch client demo. Click on interview. See how easy it was to get in and out. Sometimes if it won't do it, just escape and go right back in. So look right here. First thing we're going to do is ask for your information. This is your client's information. So you put their name in there. Okay, and it's
Randall,
already got it. Yes.
Susan has a hand raised for a question.
Okay, go ahead, Susan.
Hey, Randy. Yeah, I am just kind of a little bit unclear because of all of the the hard documentation that we have. When you do a long distance, basically someone you're meeting with someone online through Zoom, would you be filling out the confidential, the paperwork that is titled confidential as you're going through and asking those
No,
questions?
no,
Or are you
didn't.
actually inside the software?
No, you use the confidential when you're doing the family tree asset positioning go-to first interview. You use the that's how you get people to agree to want the trust. But then when you go in to do the trust, you have to use the software and answer the trust questions. When you draw the family tree, you've got just about, if you do it right, you've got all the information you need to fill it out. But
Okay,
but
we haven't done that though. This is the first meeting, so, and we're expecting to set up the trust basically.
okay, so you should either have them there to give you that information, but you can go, let me show you what you can do, Susan. You can go over to forms.
Mhm.
Okay, let me see if I can get this, all this stuff out of the way here. Um, hold on a second here. Go over to forms and you can pull up all the paper forms that are exactly like the software. And you can fill out the questionnaire and then enter the software later. If you're not real used to using the software, don't use it. Use the paper form. And
Okay,
then,
that's what I was thinking. Yes. Okay.
okay. All right. So you come over here and you want to put their date of birth in there and all that kind of stuff. That's all stuff you get on page 1 of the confidential if you do it correctly.
Okay.
Um, and then you go
Randall,
down
your
here and
screen is blank.
whose screen is blank?
The screen share is black. It's gone down.
Well,
You
let's
need
just
to
do it.
reshare.
Okay. So how about that?
I can't
So,
see anything.
can somebody who's watching this talk and say whether you can see it or not?
Susan,
I
can you
can see it,
see?
Randy.
It's blank, Randy.
You cannot see it? Well, I'm going to do this. I'm going to stop the share.
Yes, stop the share and then reshare. And
Okay.
then once that's done, there are 2 more questions in the chat.
So I'm going to go over to the share screen,
Share screen.
and then I'm going to pick Family State Docs. That should
Yes,
be
now we can see
Okay,
it.
there we
Great.
go.
okay. Good. So um, I'm going to be honest with a lot of you right now. If you really want to learn how to do this, and if you really want to be honest with your clients, you ought to have an estate plan of your own and go in and do it on yourself. And nobody learns it more than the one who's doing it on themselves. If you're out there trying to sell it without owning one, are you being honest with your clients? The next thing is, so we're going to look at your trust provisions here. And one thing I always like people to know on trust provisions, if you see that little blue circle there with a question mark, click on it. I always tell people it's like your lawyer talking. It's explaining what's going on right there and what a trust date is. And the cool thing about a trust date is it means nothing except to identify the trust. Because if you do a John Smith trust, John Smith Family Trust dated January 1, 1900, that's going to be a different name than the John Smith Trust dated 2024. So the trust date is part of the name of the trust. And that's it. It's nothing fancy, nothing complicated. But if you're going to do a restatement on an existing trust, you have to type in the exact name of the existing trust and the original date, not today's date, but the original date of the trust. If you run into one that was done in 1924, John Smith Trust dated January 1, 1924. Okay, so does anybody have any questions on that, on how to do the trust date for a restatement?
Kim Scott asked, please cover how to properly name the trust.
Well, okay, you can name the trust anything you want to. If I was doing the Randall Baxter Trust and I didn't want it to be called the Randall Baxter Trust, I might call it the RB Trust, or I might call it the Really Bad Trust. It doesn't matter, because whatever you name it, it's still going to name the trustors and trustees of that trust. You don't want to get too fancy. I've seen people get really, really too fancy on it. And some people don't like their name on the trust just for privacy reasons, but you can name your trust anything you want. I hope that answers your question. But so the next thing that I have to deal with a lot is equal beneficiary shares. So you have to look at this question. You can check yes or no. Yes, you want all beneficiaries to get equal shares. And you'll know that if you look at the family tree and it's mom and dad and 3 children and no grandchildren and no parents, no other siblings or anything, they'd probably want equal shares. But if you draw a family tree and dad brought 3 children to the marriage and then they had mom and dad had 2 children of their own and mom brought 1 child in separately, you may not want equal shares. You might want to go down to no. I would like to determine the size of each beneficiary share. you got to remember that this software is called decision tree programming. So anything that you tell it when you answer these questions, just by clicking those little dots, you're telling the software what to say and it knows. You don't have to, that's why you're not practicing law, because you're not designing anything. You're coaching people through these answers. And folks, if you would just look at yourself as being a coach and not a legal advisor, if you're coaching people through the answers, you're not breaking the law. You're just helping them with the answers. You're not creating the document. You know, in Tennessee, you can't say you're an attorney and you can't create the document. I'm sure that's true everywhere. So you're not creating the document here. You're just answering the questions, and keep yourself clean by understanding exactly what you're doing. The next one is, do you have a prenup or a post-nup agreement? I saw an email go through yesterday. Somebody asked about that. The answer is just yes or no. Don't try to analyze the prenup, because if you analyze the prenup, you're giving legal advice. So you don't have to do that. Just say, if you have a prenup, you had it written by an attorney, you understand what it says, yes or no. So the next thing is do you want a standard trust or an AB trust? And the
Randall,
majority, yes,
Harley had a question about the equal beneficiary
go
shares.
ahead.
She
Okay.
said,
Now, who had the question? Who had the
Harley,
question?
Harley.
Okay.
She said, my client asked, where would she say that after she dies, her son owns 75% of the house and her daughter owns 25% of the house?
Okay. If the house is the only asset in the trust, you just say under beneficiary share. So you go down to beneficiary selection right there, and you put their names in, and the only way you have to put their names in the yellow section. Okay. And then you go to the beneficiary section and pick their names out and give them their share. See their share right through there. But now, a share of a house might be a bequest and not just a percentage. Okay. Susan, what's your question?
Well, it was a follow-on to what you mentioned before. So you go in and I have the form, the grantor, for two, the married couple. So you're stating basically to print that out and fill that out as you're online with them, fill that out, and then fill out the online application later, after the fact, after the meeting.
While you're new, yes. Once you do it a couple times, you won't need that paper form. You'll just be able to ask them the questions. But
Okay, that asks everything that's necessary, everything.
everything.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. Now I carry them in my briefcase, because sometimes I have to pull it out and do it, right there without the computer. Sometimes I'm more comfortable, and sometimes I don't have my cell phone with me to have my hotspot. And sometimes I'm just not in a spot, but if I can reach in my briefcase and pull one out, I can do it right then, get them sign their credit card for them and say, you're done. I'll get this entered for you. Will that be okay? And they sign the form saying it's okay for you to put the information in the computer. So yeah, you have everything under forms that you need to write a trust without the software. That way you can't make any mistakes. You just be aware that that if you have any questions, all you got to do is click on that little blue ball and it'll tell you what's going on. Right there's a complete definition of a spendthrift. And there's even a video there if you want to watch that video of spendthrift. Or if you're with your client, you can go in and let them watch that video, or you can email that video to them.
So that's what I'm asking. I mean, that's where we're kind of having some conflicting information, I think, in my mind anyway. If you're doing the paper documentation, you're not online. You're actually
Well, you
asking.
might be. You might be. So it just depends on whether you're on the phone and on the computer or on a Zoom call. But most of the time, if I'm doing a paper form, I'm on a cup of coffee with them, and I'm just talking. And I'll draw the family tree on the back, because that's what bonds them to me and makes them understand what they do. And then when I do the children and grandchildren, everything like that, and then find out, then I follow the presentation exactly as I wrote it. Folks, that's the best presentation you can ever use if you want to sell an estate plan. It works. So so what I do, Susan, is I carry a copy of the agenda with me, which is the exact presentation for the family tree asset position you go to first interview. So you can do it all on paper. You don't have to be high tech. So just be aware that every situation changes. If I'm talking to somebody on the phone, I may tell them to get out a piece of paper and draw it themselves as I draw it with them. If I'm on the a Zoom page, I might use a whiteboard. It just every situation is different. You just have to play it by ear. So, but if somebody has a question, say, hey, let me send you an email about the spendthrift protection, and you can do that off your website. We're going to get to that in just a minute. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I believe so. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So we go. I'm going to go back up here to your trust provisions. And when I draw the family tree, I know if they've got children or grandchildren, and I know if they're 7 years old or 23 years old, and they'll tell me all about them, and I'll just sit and listen because I might even tell them about my grandchildren because I want to bond with them. Okay, but down here where it says, do you want a standard trust or an AB trust, you can click on the AB trust and it'll tell you what an AB trust is. It shouldn't freak you out. You should look at it and say, well, this is, if their state is, oh, okay. Several years ago, the estate laws were changed and they went from like 5 or 6 million up to 15 million, and they've started increasing a little bit. But all those laws are going to sunset in 2025. And that might drop it back down to 5 million. So a lot of people go ahead and do an AB trust. It's a little more complicated. And if I were you, I would not recommend one until you become an expert on one. But you can explain it to them just by clicking on that little blue ball. Okay, so where'd my mouse go? I'm having a real hard time with my mouse. It's hiding from me. It's so little. Oh, there it is. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna come down here, and the next question you want to ask is, and we had one today. Do you want the trust to become irrevocable upon death of the first spouse, or remain open for future amendments, replacements, and even dissolution? So we had a buyer in here today that wanted, if she died or her husband died, she wanted everything irrevocable because it was a second marriage, and she had brought most of the assets to the party, and she wanted those assets to guarantee that they went back to her children. So that's a big question. Do you want the trust to become irrevocable upon the death of the first spouse, which that gives and a lot of times that's the reason I ask the health questions, because if I know a spouse is closer to the cliff, and I know that they've got some health problems and they're probably going to check out sooner, they may want to be sure that their decisions become irrevocable at their first death. And a lot of times they don't even know that, but they might also say, no, I know she's 35 years younger than me, but she can do whatever she wants to with my money. I don't care. So you would leave it to where it was open for future amendments. And if you make that person 100% beneficiary and you don't make it irrevocable for what you want to go to your children, then that money belongs to that spouse and she can do whatever she wants with it. Okay, so we were traveling, if we went up here and said, check the first box, surviving spouse should have unrestricted access to assets and to make changes to the trust. That's one thing. That's giving that spouse total freedom. Or trust should become irrevocable. You're taking some of that freedom away, and both spouses agree to it, and you have certain assets that can't be changed. And that could be percent, and it could be that house. Okay, you can't change the percentage of the house from 75 to 25. Okay. So anyway, next one is, do you have separate property that you wish to keep separate? And I think I told you all that story. My mom brought a farm to to the marriage between her and my stepfather. And when she was ready, when she was about to die, she looked at my stepfather and said, that farm goes to my children and not your children. So, do you have separate property that you brought to the marriage? And the answer could either be yes or no. So if you check no, you're just telling it, come down here and check no, you're saying no, all property should be considered community property. But up here, if you check yes, yes, we have property that should be kept separate. So that way it's going to address what that property is. And again, this is decision tree programming. Should written consent of both spouses be required for all transactions? Some people say yes. And I found that almost 100% of the second marriage and third marriage and fourth marriage say yes. But sometimes when one of the spouses is unhealthy, or they've been together so long that they don't see themselves as two different people, that they see themselves as one unit, they might say no. Either spouse may act without the consent of the other. But if you spend enough time to talk to these people about that, they're going to think you're pretty smart. They're going to think, God, you're covering things that they didn't even consider. Okay, so if you just follow this list and ask these questions, man, they're going to think you're just the smartest thing in the world. Do you want to void this trust in case of a divorce? And some people say yes, and some people say no. I think the ones that say no might love their children more than anybody. I don't know, but I don't try to influence it. Okay. Do you want a single individual or organization? And it could be they might say yes because they brought assets to the marriage and that they've already had a couple of bad marriages. And if they'll tell you that, that means they trust you. Remember, early on, I used to teach you all about micro commitments, and people who start giving you information you don't ask for are making micro commitments. And if they start making micro commitments to you in the formation of your trust, they'll start making micro commitments to you in the funding of the trust, which is where you make the most money. So the next question, do you want a single individual or corporate or organization to serve as trustee? You can have one successor trustee, which is what I recommend. I don't like committees. Committees just set up conflict. So I'm not sure but that, some people might want a committee. Then all you got to do when you're done there is hit save and continue. It takes you to the next page. So and again, so all these buttons on this, you can see, you can list your children. Okay, you can list your distribution options. You don't have to list the grandchildren. But you do have to list your children. Okay, so the next thing, roles. Well, let's go to distribution options once. So we can come down here and that's the question over here. Do you want joint distribution for children? Yes. And if you do the family tree, you're going to know if that's a factor, because if you've got one spouse that's got maybe they're 70 years old and they've got 4 children, and the youngest one is 27, and maybe another spouse that's got children, and one of them, or maybe one of them's 14, or then you have to address that issue, and you address it by pulling out the family tree and saying, look at this right here. The 14-year-old's not going to get any distribution right now, and when you pick your trustee's going to be in charge of that, and they're going to go, thank you for telling us that. And almost, again, I'm going to promise you, if you draw your family tree right and set it out in front of the middle people, everybody will be reaching over and putting their fingers on people in the family tree. That's why I like to draw a hole the size of a quarter, because you can put your finger in and say, yeah, I want to talk about this one right here. Hear me pecking on the table? Well, I'm actually pecking on the circle inside the family tree. So you get to decide your distribution options. Are there any questions there? Am I missing questions, Lisa?
Yes, Joe O'Mara had a question. He
Go
said,
ahead, Joe.
What happens after you fill the information on the Fed software trust and on the healthcare agent portion, on the portion where the client doesn't want any assistance while alive?
Okay, we're
Brackets.
going to cover that in a minute when I get down to that section.
Okay.
Okay, so Joe, hang in there with us, and I'll answer that question for you. Okay, but anyway, look right here where you add people and organizations. If you don't have someone in the yellow section of the box, you cannot put them as a beneficiary. You cannot put them as a trustee. You cannot put them as a trustor. You can't put them as anything unless they're in that yellow box. So be aware of that. Okay. The next thing is your beneficiary section. And this is where you've asked the question, does everybody get an equal share? If you do, it's going to be broken down by the number of beneficiaries automatically on the decision tree software. But if you say it's going to be different, it's going to ask you what the percentage is. We did one the other day up in Kingsport that was 60, 10, 10, 20 for their own reasons. Okay. And then you select the contingent beneficiaries. And if they, sometimes, you know, if you do per stirrups, you've eliminated the spouse. Everybody's familiar with that. Okay. Some people don't want to eliminate the spouse. Some people want to treat the spouse equally with their child, and that's okay. But you can't say per stirrups if you're going to do that, because if you say per stirrups, you're going to bypass the spouse. Look at this next one here, disinherit, and be sure and raise your hand if you have any questions. But if you're going to disinherit somebody, why would you disinherit somebody? Well, okay. Yeah, maybe you've adopted 3 kids and they turned out to not be what you wanted. Maybe, yeah, maybe they're taking drugs. Maybe they're not handling their, you know, maybe there's something, maybe they haven't talked to you in 20 years. Okay. Maybe, and I had one the other day, they looked at me and they said, Randy, we've already given her inheritance. So we want our son to have the rest of this money. She's already got everything from us, and she took it a little bit every year, and we're done. Okay. If someone's saying that to you, they've already said, we're going to buy this. Okay. So then you look at your trustee selection. You can see right here, John Doe picked Jane Doe first. Most people pick their spouse, and then it says John Doe's primary alternate successor is Paul Doe. And John Doe's second alternate successor trustee is Carl Doe. You can put up to 2 successor trustees if you want to. Your financial agent, which is your power of attorney. And sometimes on a real simple one, if it's a simple family tree drawing, the person they pick for trustee and successor trustee is usually the person they pick for their financial power of attorney. And they also pick that for their executor of their will. Then you go down to your healthcare agent and pick those people. And then we go to advanced directives. So Joe O'Meara, ask that question again. What's your question?
Okay. What happened is I fill in I check those box, right? They'll go like, I want to specify the following treatment. So like, I'll say, I refuse resuscitation, I refuse artificial administered fluids, but I request emergency transport, that kind of thing. Okay. So and then I fill up all of that. After I fill it up, I save it and then I print it out and it's all blanks. There's no check marks on anything.
Joe, that's going to happen every time, because the software thinks that even though you answer those questions, when they come down to sign it, you need to review it with them. And that's why it comes back blank. They want you to have an ink mark on there where they check it themselves.
Oh, so in other words, they will check it themselves at that point,
will.
at the final.
Right.
Okay, I was wondering if that's okay to do, like before we have them sign the final.
Absolutely.
And that's why they're
Absolutely.
filling the blanks as well at that point.
Right. And you know what? If they're talking to you about that event in their life, they trust you and they're getting ready to do a back end sale too.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I was just wondering because everything seems so legalistic, and then when I keep things blank, it in the past, right, in other areas, it tends to lead to difficulties. So I'm glad that I can fill it in then, right?
Yeah, you can fill it in. You can fill it in.
All
And
right.
same thing for organ donation.
Same thing happens,
Sometimes,
right?
yeah. Sometimes when you draw that family tree, and you find a minor in there, then they're going to ask you about the guardian who, so many people, they have children, they buy a life insurance policy, and mom names dad as the beneficiary, and then they name their 4-year-old son and their 2-year-old daughter as the contingent beneficiary. And that is so stupid. But most life insurance agents, that's what they do because they don't think it through. Okay. So, but at the same time, if you draw that family tree and see that there's minor children in there, you have a chance to shine. You have a chance to tell them why they don't want to name those children and that they need to name a guardian. Now, a guardian is not a trustee. So some people pick the trustee and make the guardian separate. So the guardian is in charge of the safety of the child, but not in charge of the money. Some people name the guardian and the trustee to be the same person. It just depends on the
Randall,
relationship. Yes.
another question I had was, how do you determine how much do you pay the trustee? The trustor pays the
Well,
trustee
it
after they're
says
gone.
reasonable and customary. Attorneys charge about 4, 5, 10, 15%. I think 1% is customary, and then usually in the family they don't charge anything except reimbursement of expenses. But it's okay for somebody to say, I want my son to have $10,000 for handling this, or I want him to have 1% of the value of the estate. You don't determine it, Joe. You ask the trustors what they want. What would they
Okay.
want? Okay, don't make the decision for them. You got to remember, you are serving as a coach, not
Okay,
as a legal
okay,
advisor. And if
okay.
it's a do-it-yourself software that's attorney written, all you're doing is helping them come up with their answers.
Yeah, the
And
other thing
that's
I had difficulty on is sometimes they want dollar amount and not percentage. Like, have a client that wants $1 million. I mean, his total assets probably are around almost close to 2 million, but he wants to give $1 million to donate it all. And
that's a
and it's
bequest. That's a bequest.
okay. So in the in the where is it again? Okay, so you fill in the name again, right? In that way at the beginning part, and then at the bequest, you write down these things right here, what you just did.
You just answer the questions. Look at that tool collection. Let's click on that a minute. And you can see that upon the death of John Doe, the recipient is going to be Paul Doe with no contingent needed. But you
Right.
might need one if Paul's sick and you find out that Paul's sick. Bequest type is personal property, untitled, and it just says description of the asset, tool collection. That's all you have to do.
Okay.
So this is what question do you have?
Also, I got,
Go ahead, Joe. It's okay. We'll go with Susan.
uh, you know what? Sorry, move on. I'll ask it when it comes back to me.
Okay, Susan, you have a question?
Yes, I do. I'm working with a couple that don't have children, so and they're, we'll be putting together their family tree. I don't know what relatives they'll have, but let's just say, for instance, they don't have parents. Do you just bring to mind siblings, friends? What do you typically do in a situation like that?
I draw the family tree before the question comes up, and then
Hmm.
it solves itself. It will solve itself. And
If they don't,
if you're saying mom and dad have no children, no brothers and sisters, then they're going to either name friends or organizations. So you go back to that yellow button and name that organization in there and you can see it right here, add people, organizations. When you click on it, it comes down to, you can either add a person or add an organization or add a child. But draw your family tree, and you'll see that when it comes up to that question, they'll tell you what the answer is. I've got one that I'm going to do next week. I've already sold the trust. They have no children. Dad brought 5 brothers and sisters to the marriage, and has 10 beneficiaries, and mom has 2 grandchildren. And that's it. So does everybody get equal share? No. So you check off no, they don't get equal shares. But you got to have everybody's name in that yellow section. Everybody. If they're going to be
perfect.
named in the trust, they have to be right there in the add people and organizations. That answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Good.
Alicia had a question in the chat,
Hi,
Randall.
Alicia. Okay.
She said, "Hi, Randall. Could you explain perserbs again? Thanks. I'm just curious when it comes into play."
Yes. Perserbs means that the money follows the bloodline and the spouses are left out. So So if I have one child and three grandchildren, and I die tomorrow, it's going to go to my child. But if my child dies before me, then I know that her children get my inheritance that would have gone to her. That's per stirps. But her husband wouldn't get anything because you bypass the spouse. Most people don't think the spouse is good enough anyway. So, but if they want to name the spouse, they can, but you can't use the per stirps clause. So there's two definitions there that you might want to write down and do some research. One's called per stirps, STIRPES. Latin is per stirpes. And the other one is per capita, PERCAPITAE. I don't know if these on there or not. Some of y'all seen how bad I am at spelling. I don't know whether there's an E on there or not, but per stirps means that the money follows the bloodline. Per capita, which is what my brother wanted with his grandchildren. He said, "Hey, I have 10 grandchildren, and I want them all to get an equal share. So if there's $10 there and he has 10 grandchildren, everybody gets $1. But because one of his children has 4 children, and another one of his children has 4 children, but another one of his children only have 2 children, if he went per stirps, the one who had 4 children would split. If that child died and the grandchildren stepped up, then each child would get 1/4 of that child's share. That child who only had 2 children, if that child died, then each one of his grandchildren through that child would get 1/2 of that child's share. So per stirps is a fractional description of if a child dies before the parent. Per capita means that it's an equal distribution for everybody. Does that answer your question? I hope so. Another question?
Felicia said,
Randall?
thanks, yes.
Okay. Oh, yes, Joe.
Yeah. So what happens? Okay, the guy I'm working on right now, he doesn't have any brothers or sisters, but he has like his nephews and so forth across the line. He doesn't want to leave. He's not leaving a cent to any of them. All of his money is going to go to donation. Uh, I told him that he doesn't have to write anything on it because it's directive on it, but I was wondering if maybe he might want to write a sentence in there stating that all my money is going to donate to charity.
No, you go to add people and organizations and name the charity.
Oh yeah, I did that already. So the
Okay.
charity and they've been
and then you,
contacted and all that stuff.
and then you go to the beneficiary selection and name the percentage.
Right.
And then if they're children, if they're real close and he thinks that there may be a problem, you go to disinherit and you disinherit those children.
Okay. So as a general rule, then if it's like 10 people across his family line, he doesn't want to give anything to them, but they're not really close to him directly, he can just leave that blank, right? Then.
Uh, yeah, because it's only the children. It's not, and if he names a organization as the beneficiary 100%, then it's not going to be a problem. But if they're children, you might want to disinherit those children.
Okay, he has no children.
Okay, then
Okay,
you're ready
thanks.
to roll. Okay.
Yep.
All right. So when I come down here, because I got to wrap up here, when you're finished, you hit review. When you hit review, it's going to come up, and you can see up through here that everything's peachy king. If there's any red print, then there's a problem. Okay, and you click on the red print, and it'll tell you what the problem is. It might tell you there's a wording issue, or you need to fill in this blank or something like that. So when you're done there and you punch in review, look here. If review is complete, click here to continue. So when you do that, you're ready to print. So I can come over here and say, okay, I want to print the trust, and click on that. It's going to bring you to a page right here, and it says, look there, there's no documents found. So if I say I want to generate the document, I click on generate the document, and you're going to have a processing request. And it says, okay. When you click okay, look what happens. It gives you a document ready to print. And then all you got to do is click on it, and you can print it off. So, or if you want to, you can go back and edit it. Okay. And you pick that section you want to edit. say go into the trustee selection, you can change the trust. Real quick, because I can't take many questions, it's 3:53. I've got another appointment at 4 o'clock. Are there any other questions that you have out there for the software? Lucy, you can read
Nothing
them off.
more in the chat, Randall. The only
Okay.
comment was from Harle. She said, yeah, a lot of options filled out in the software weren't generated to print.
Were or were not?
Weren't. Were
Weren't.
not.
Okay, so it's because you didn't generate it right. You got to review it first, and then you hit just follow the directions at the bottom. And a lot of times it's not the software acting up. If you click on review, look right there. It says if review is complete, click here to continue. And when you click on that, and you say, okay, it's complete, and it's going to give you all the documents that are ready to roll. And then all you got to do is click on each one and print it off. So right here, you've got, especially look at the funding kit. I know we need to have another class on the funding kit, but there's a whole section here on funding your trust. And you can click the assets, real estate assets, and you've got a whole section on how to fund the trust through that real estate. And then you can just go on the ledger. There's a deed service there if you want it, deed works. And we have a whole class on that on the randallbaxter.com where our local attorney defines and teaches you how to use deed works. Folks, this is the easiest software you're ever going to get. It's superior to the other software, the other estate planning softwares out there that are attorney written. And that let you serve as a coach. Some people say, oh, it's not, the attorney doesn't sign it. The attorney doesn't have to sign it. So don't be fooled. But anyway, follow your directions, go out and play with your deed. And again, I'm just going to say, if you do not own a trust yourself and you're out trying to sell them, shame on you. You ought to get your trust set up and get it documented so that you can be ready to go. Any questions before I go? I'd stay longer, but I've got about 3 or 4 more minutes.
Yeah,
Nothing
does
more to
the
it.
does the funding kit, does that information is included in the documentation that you're printed out and you're filling out, or is
If
that
you, it appears in each person's web page. So when you sell one, each person gets their own web page, and they can go in. And once you get it set up for them, you can click on funding kit and produce. You can either fill it out for them or let them fill it out. If you let them fill it out, a lot of you are not following through. That's why you're not picking up the back end sale. Remember, the back end sale is going to be between 5 and 20 times larger than the front end sale.
So that's the second appointment, though.
That's the second appointment, and I'm usually averaging anywhere from $5,000 to $20,000 on each back end sale. Plus, I get set up for all future sales. I lock the client in because we do a good job.
Mhm.
Okay, so
Okay, and then and so when you went just now and said print the document, do you forward that document to them as a PDF?
well, you print the document and you can email it to them. I think that's a mistake. You can go and send it to them if you want to, but you're giving up your opportunity to close the back end, the funding process.
Right, you don't want to do that. That's what I
You
was
don't wanna
thinking
do it.
as well.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
then you confirmed what I was thinking. Thank you.
Okay. What else we got out there? Folks, do it right. It's easy. It's superior to everything else. It's intellectually digestible by your client, and it's a no-brainer to do. Other than that, I've got to get ready for another appointment. I hope this helped everybody. I've got 1 more minute. If anybody else has a question.
Nothing more in the chat.
Okay. All right, Lisa, you've had a busy day. You and I were talking early this morning, 6 o'clock this morning. Here it is.
Yes.
We're talking to people in California and Hawaii. We've gone all the way around the world today, from South Africa to Tennessee to California to Hawaii, and it's not that far back to
Yes.
South Africa. So anyway,
Yes.
I got to go. And if you have any questions, email them to me, and I hope you guys have a great week.